Welcome to the presentation of the New Albany Montessori language curriculum. My name is Leah, and I'll be walking you through the language activities that we present to the children. One thing to keep in mind is that many of these activities will be presented to the child initially, and from there the child will have a choice to work on these activities at their own pace. Much of this work will be done in an ever-expanding spiral. Once a skill is learned, it is built upon and refocused on time and time again. In our classroom, we start our language work with the spoken word. This is accomplished through naming what the children see, feel, smell, taste, and hear in the environment using our sensorial materials. Each of these materials teaches the child a specific vocabulary related to that material. Longest, shortest, thickest, thinnest, deep, shallow, rough, smooth. These are all vocabulary components that they can take into their regular life. We also play games like I Spy, where we will ask the child about something in the environment that they can see. I spy with my little eyes something that starts with the sound Rug, you got it right. And we could also do I spy with my little eyes something that ends in the sound an. Can, you got it right. These are great activities to help children build their vocabulary and their phonetic sense and to hear how words are made up of different sounds. By the age of 4, children should have roughly a vocabulary consisting of 5,000 words. And in our environment, this is a very attainable goal because we spend so much time speaking and naming parts of things. When we introduce a new concept to the children, we always start with the most concrete way of presenting the concept. So, an object itself, or different objects that represent it. Once the child is mastered matching object to object, they'll move on to matching objects to pictures, and then pictures to pictures. This is one way that the children start the process of moving from a concrete thought to a more abstract thought. Sequencing and patterning are useful activities to help the child order their mind and gain an understanding of processes and how that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to something. Rhyming is one of our first concepts that we introduce children to so that they begin, again, to understand how things sound are not necessarily how they're spelled. My name, Leah, rhymes with Bia, but they're not necessarily spelled the same. It also helps children differentiate between sounds and that beginning sounds h, at, and the word k, at are different. Even though they sound similar, they have different components that make them have different meanings. And these are the concepts that are continually built upon throughout their language journey. One of the most iconic Montessori materials are the sandpaper letters. That's the pink letter that you see there in the middle. These letters are used in so many ways to help children start to understand the link between the symbol, or the letter, and its sound. In this case, D says D. In our classroom, we focus on the sound that the letters make first, rather than the name. So even though we sing the alphabet song, when we introduce a letter, this is D, D, D. This is D. These letters are also used to introduce the children to letter formation. So using slow and gentle movements, the children trace the letters using 2 fingers and say the sound associated with the letter. They'll trace it, D. Next, the children will sort objects that match the letter that they're learning to emphasize the concept of the beginning sound. As you see in the basket at the top, you see dollar, dinosaur, and duck. Every time they place an object, they'll trace the letter and then say the beginning sound. Just like before, they will move from objects onto pictures. So you can see over in the corner at the right that meadow, mammoth, mat, mirror, and they will spend time sorting all of these things and saying it and emphasizing that is the beginning sound. Then they will move on to objects with the word that they can spell. So an is very phonetic and they can spell that out and they can sound it out and make that word. And finally, they will move on to phonetic sentences that they can, again, decode with simple phonetic sounds. Our language program that we use is broken down into 3 levels, just to make it very clear to the children what level they are on and what material they're going to get. So we have pink being the introductory, the CVCs or beginning sounds, very phonetic in their composition. And then the blue series are letters blends, both in the beginning and at the end. So sh, th, ch. And then finally the green series, which are vowel blends and other vowel combinations that make reading a little tricky. So the differentiated levels help the children isolate the concepts and learn them in the same manner that they have every other language concept, starting from the most concrete and moving to abstract. You can see at the bottom we have sight words or puzzle words that are taught to children as soon as they grasp the concept that letters are combined to make words. They're called sight words because these are words that you have to memorize by sight to learn, because they don't follow any of the rules that we have taught so far. Each series of tasks builds upon the last concept to help the children become comfortable and fluid readers. You can see here that we have the first set of sight words, and to the right, then we have readers where the beginning sounds are emphasized, both visually, the blends are written in different colors, and through repetition. And then finally, we have an example of the green set, which is focusing on the long E sound. So this is one way to make the long E sound. And you have picture to word, a word list, and then a sentence where you can practice. Next, we have the Moveable Alphabet. This is one of my absolute favorite materials in the classroom. Once children have a firm grasp of the concept of a letter and sound, they begin to work with the Moveable Alphabet. This is a tool that's used to help children understand that words are built using letters. Building words with a movable alphabet are oftentimes occur before the children have mastered how to write the letters. Children are able to experiment with word building in an impermanent way. If they make a mistake with their spelling, they simply put the letter back and choose another until they have the correct spelling. That is so important for child development, making sure that they have this easy way of completing a task and being successful. In these pictures, you have children moving from concrete uses of the alphabet to more abstract. First, at the left, the child is matching the movable alphabet to sandpaper letters that they are familiar with. Then we have a child using objects to spell words. In another they're using pictures. Next, they are writing their own shorter words. And finally, I have a picture of children who last year wrote a shopping list of fruit using their own inventive spelling. Then, once we have put all of these concepts together, letter sounds, and some rules, and we've started putting things together, we're ready to write. The act of writing can be taught both through indirect and direct work. Some of the indirect work that children participate in are strengthening the coordination of their fine motor control and their large muscle groups. So they do this through sensorial and practical life work and outside play. The more direct work that we do in the class to prepare them for writing are through push pinning, which helps the child practice their pincer grip, and in the end they will have a perfect shape cut out of paper. The metal insets, which are material that let the child experience keeping their marks within a set space so that they have a beautiful picture at the end. And finally, again, we come to the sandpaper letters. Sandpaper letters are used throughout the child's experience here, from age 2.5 all the way to 6. And this is a way for a child to practice writing their letters in smooth, gentle strokes. Now, the indirect preparation you've heard from other speakers about our sensorial areas and our practical life areas, and all of those things are very true. But what the practical life for writing is so great for is those fine motor, when we use our fingers and we get those little tongs and we pinch things and we're using these small muscle groups. But it's also really important to understand that writing is a systemic practice. Not only do we have to memorize how we make the letters, you also have to have the strength of your shoulders to sustain writing. And so that's where work like going on the monkey bars and opening doors and pushing wagons and helping carrying groceries are all fantastic works for strengthening those large muscle groups. I have noticed that every classroom that I have that has had a set of monkey bars on the playground, my children are fantastic at writing because they get to work on those shoulder muscles all the time. Now, all of the work with all these different materials throughout our classroom leads them to writing. When we learn to write, the children start by tracing the sandpaper letters again to learn the initial strokes without ever having to create a mark on a surface. I said previously that that's so important so that children can get confidence. There are so many children that, oh my gosh, my letter doesn't look like yours, and they'll be defeated and instantly stop trying. With the use of the sandpaper letter, they can try and try again to get that muscle memory down so that they can make their D, and so that when they hold their pencil, the letter forms much more fluidly. This is very deliberate. We always want our children to have a sense of success. And so next, the child will move on to making marks on a surface that are easily erased, such as chalkboards or dry erase boards. Once the children have a measure of success, they will put pencil to paper and practice letter formation and creating words. One of my favorite culminating experiences for children is story writing, and that is an example that you will see in our top right. This is a sentence that a child wrote and illustrated. And this is actually exactly what my classroom looked like last year, down to the floodlights and the emergency exit and the maps on the wall. This is a beautiful expression of writing. And we have a wide variety of all of these activities available to the children throughout our classroom. So as I said in the beginning, we start with the very simple and then we come back and we build upon those skills, and we constantly are circling back to those fantastic skills to build into a complete reader and writer. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this time this evening or morning, whenever you're watching this. And I hope that you now have a better insight into our language curriculum here at New Albany School. Thank you.